If you're on a tight budget and you still want buttery smooth gameplay at 1080p, then this is the video for you. Today we'll be talking about a powerful gaming PC that you can build under 40,000 rupees that can run AAA titles somewhere around 55 to 60 FPS and competitive games at well over 100 FPS. So let's get to it. Now, first, I'm going to discuss the build overview and then we'll dive into details as to why these components are selected. And these components have been selected carefully so that they work in tandem with each other and the build in its whole give you complete value. So this is the overview. So for the CPU, we'll be going with the Ryzen 5 3600. For the GPU, we'll be going with the RTX 3050. For the motherboard, we'll be going with the AM4 socket A520 MKV2 by Gigabyte. For the storage, we'll be going with the Crucial P3 1TB NVMe SSD. For the RAM, we'll be going with the 8GB G-Skill Ripjaws 3200 MHz. For the PSU, we'll be going with a 450 watt PSU bronze. That'll be by Gigabyte P450B. And finally, the cabinet will be going with the Ant eSport Elite 1100. So all of this will be just under 40,000. Now let's dive into why I've selected these components and if you can select any other alternatives to this. Now, first thing is the CPU. Now the CPU, I have selected AMD over Intel mainly because of two reasons. First one is Intel 13 gen and 14 gen are highly unreliable. These processors have been damaged permanently in regular use because of overvoltage, and Intel hasn't said anything about it. They've just remained silent, and neither has there been any recalls or RMAs. So the reliability factor with Intel is at an all-time low, and I wouldn't suggest you go with Intel builds at all. The second more important reason is that Intel changes its socket very regularly. The upgrade path when it comes to AMD is much more cost effective when you compare it to Intel. And the performance difference between the Ryzen processors and the Intel processors honestly isn't that much. So I would say if you want long-term upgradability and you don't want to keep on changing your sockets, then just go with AMD. They're much more reliable. GPU. Now, with the GPU, there isn't really much choice over here. The AMD GPUs are much more expensive. The price to performance ratio takes a hit, and the 3050 does perform decently well when it comes to 1080p, and you get playable frame rates at around 60 fps with AAA titles. So the price to performance ratio again is the best when it comes to this card. There isn't anything else in the market as of now. This is the best I can recommend to you at this point, at least. Now, the motherboard, I've gone with Gigabyte. Now there are better options in the market also. There's MSI, there's Asus, but both these boards are expensive. Gigabyte gives you the right balance between reliability and price. You don't want over the top features which you will never use. So MSI as well as Asus, they are better for more expensive builds, not for budget builds. But at the same time, there are cheaper boards in the market. You have ASRock, you have Galax. Now these two boards I wouldn't recommend because of two reasons mainly. One, their after sales service is just terrible. Second, their VRMs aren't that reliable. Because these boards are cheaper components have been used in their boards, which question their reliability. You wouldn't want your board, or worse, your GPU, to be impacted just because you bought a bad board. So Gigabyte, I feel, has the perfect balance, and you can go with this board without any questions asked. RAM. Now, I have selected the Ripjaws G-Skill 8GB 3200 MHz. You, on the other hand, if you're comfortable with some other brand or you find some RAM which is cheaper than this, then go ahead with that. I've had my past with this particular brand and it's never failed me, 100% success rate. So it's easy for me to recommend. But if you do find a better deal or a better brand or something at a better price maybe, then sure, go for it. Now with the storage, I've gone with Crucial. I've had all my SSDs as Crucial, so I can say that they are reliable and the performance that they advertise is like that. Now with the PSU, you have two options. The first being Antec and the second being Gigabyte. Now, both these brands are reliable. So I would say go for any of the bronze rated power supplies, which are above at least 450 watts. You want to go with 550 watts or 600 watts, go ahead. It will give you better upgradability path later on. And it'll also give you a bit of headroom as well. Although 450 watts is more than enough for this combination. Any other cheaper brand out there, do not go for that, especially brands that don't have a bronze rating. Now, you don't want to cheap out on the power supply unit. Again, the question is about reliability. Since the PSU powers each and every component in your PC, and if there's a voltage fluctuation, then you're risking your PC components. And just because you wanted to save a couple of $1,000, you'll ruin your entire PC. And there's no going back from that. So don't cheap out here. Go for reliable brands that offer consistent voltage. Cabinet, there isn't much to say about the cabinet. The Esports Elite 1100, it has decent airflow. You can go higher or lower than this. If you do find a second-hand cabinet, go for that. Honestly, it's up to you how much you want to spend on a cabinet over here. I would limit it to 2000 since this is a budget build. All right, now that we have a build locked in, let's talk about performance. So let's look at AAA titles as well as competitive games to see how this combination performs. So first we'll be looking at a few AAA titles. That's Final Fantasy VII, Dying Light 2, Days Gone, and Cyberpunk. Now all the settings in all of these games are either high or at ultra. As you can see over here, Days Gone is very high, Cyberpunk is high, Dying Light high, and Final Fantasy VII is high as well. If you look at the average frames and the 1% lows, they are well above 60. If you look at average FPS, well above 60, as well as 1% lows, which is also an important metric to look at over here. For Days Gone, 1% load dips a little bit at 42 FPS, but for the other games, they hover mostly around 60 FPS. Now, 1% lows can dip for a few games that might be because of optimizations, but for most of the games for the RTX 3050, the 1% lows are quite decent. Let's look at a few other AAA titles as well. Forza Horizon, God of War, Far Cry 6, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now again, with the settings, they'll all be set at either high or ultra settings. Forza Horizon, as you can see, it's on ultra, God of War at high, Far Cry 6 is at high, as well as Assassin's Creed Valhalla. If you look at the average FPS for all of these games, they are well above 60 FPS. Forza Horizon is a little below 60 FPS because it's running at ultra settings. The rest of the games are running on high settings, so their average FPS is well above 60. God of War, you can increase it to ultra settings. That'll bring it down to about 60 frames per second, but the 1% lows are what you should look at. If they are above 50, that's pretty much a good sign. Above 60, that's even better. If you look at God of War, 1% lows are at 62. With Assassin's Creed, 1% lows at 54. Forza Horizon, 1% lows at 46. That's a little low. So you can, if you want to push more frames for Forza Horizon, you can decrease the settings to high. It'll give you a 1% low of 60 FPS. For Far Cry 6, the 1% lows are at 70. So over here, you can crank up the settings if you want 60 FPS for 1% lows. The average FPS, if you look at, they're well above 60 FPS. So good to go. Next, we'll be looking at a few competitive titles. So Fortnite, Battlefield 2042, Call of Duty Warzone, Call of Duty Vanguard. Now the motive over here is to play at the highest settings possible and push out frames of over 100 FPS. Now, if you look at Fortnite, Fortnite is pushing an average of 94 FPS with epic settings. So that's a good sign. Next, we have Battlefield 2042 is pushing somewhere around 60 FPS, again at ultra settings. Call of Duty Vanguard and Warzone both are giving 100 plus FPS for ultra settings enabled. For competitive titles, except Battlefield 2042, all of the games are pushing 100 plus FPS. Let's look at a couple of competitive titles and a couple of open world games. So we have CSGO and Apex Legend for competitive titles and Elden Ring and GTA San Andreas for the open world games. The graphics settings for the two competitive games will be set on ultra and the two open world games will be set at medium or high. Elden Rings will be set to medium because the game is pretty vast. GTA will be set at high, and as you can see with CSGO, it's pushing above 200 frames per second. So over here, the limitation is actually the CPU. You can push out even more frames if you have a better CPU. For Apex Legend, again, it's pushing well over 100 FPS. GTA San Andreas is averaging somewhere around 60 FPS, 55 FPS over here, and Elden Ring again is averaging at 60 FPS. So I would say that's pretty impressive for a 40K build. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Now you have 3 upgrade paths with this. The cheapest upgrade option will be the RAM. In case you want more multitasking options or you want to do editing on this, then I would suggest first thing that you upgrade the RAM. You get another stick of whatever stick you got, and then you'll have 16 gigs of RAM, and that'll be enough. You don't need 32 gigs of RAM or 24 gigs of RAM. You just will never use it. 16 GB is more than enough for the needs, so stick to that. The other paths are more expensive paths. After you've upgraded your RAM, you can then go with upgrading your GPU and then finally your CPU. CPU only upgrade if you feel there is a bottleneck, because at higher resolutions, the CPU, depending on the game, isn't used that much. There are very few games that are CPU dependent. So I would suggest whatever game you're playing, upgrade the GPU, test it out. In case your GPU doesn't suffice, then upgrade your CPU in case there's a bottleneck. Also, a quick thing over here, don't rely on the CPU being 100% used, because a lot of games are not optimized to use all the cores. They only use the first 2 or the first 3 cores. So you might not see 100% utilization. You'll have to dive a little deeper into your CPU stats to see how many cores are being utilized and then move forward from there. Okay, so the motive of making this video was just one thing, that you don't need to spend 60 or 70,000 rupees to build a 1080p gaming CPU. This setup is reliable, it's scalable, as well as stable. So let me know in the comment section below what you think of this and what 1080 build would you do instead.